Salutations, people! Welcome to Page 3 Killers, Murders That Went Unnoticed, a podcast where we dive into the murder cases that went unnoticed by our nation's newspapers.
Hi, Shay.
Hi, John.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys. Welcome back.
Welcome to Page 3 Killers, Murders That Went Unnoticed, Season 2, Episode 12.
Yes, and we are on Episode 12, and we got a good one today. We're going to be talking about the kiss and kill murder? It's like, it was dubbed the kiss and kill killer, but I think the kiss and kill murder is more apt.
You should call it the Kiss and Killer.
Yeah, that would make more sense, but no, in the newspaper articles it was the kiss and kill killer, and that would be John Mac Herring. So this is a really interesting case out of Odessa, Texas.
I know someone with the same name, but he spells it different.
Well, you mean like the full name?
Well,
John
no,
Mac?
not Mac.
Yeah, John Herring.
Well, I guess his name isn't Herring. It's close enough.
Yeah, so this case takes place on March 20th of 1961.
Is that supposed to be something special?
Well, my birthday's on March 20th.
Oh. I thought you were talking about the year. I was like,
No.
I don't know what happened in 1961.
Yeah, so we'll get into this case. It's super interesting, this whole thing. And there's a bit of a question as to is it really a murder or not? But we'll get into it. We'll see. So before we get into our news segment, do you want to give the shout out, babe?
We have Ralunk, Chelsea, and Stacey.
Yep. Thank you guys for your donations on Patreon. We appreciate it. Anyone else out there wants to become a supporter on Patreon, you can just check out the link in the bio. If you can't afford to support the podcast, just remember to like, share, subscribe. That's all we ask. Right?
Well, and give us $1 million.
Yeah, I don't think that's how we're going to happen.
Well, I'm still going to ask. So.
$1 million, and we could hire people to do this for us.
So like, share, subscribe, and a check. So.
All right. So for our news, we're going to start off with January 5th. So we have Italian sculptor Alfred Fioraventi.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Marches into the U.S. consulate in Rome and confesses that he is part of the team that forged the Etruscan terracotta warriors in the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
What is that?
So they are Italian sculptures that were supposedly found like in an archaeological dig by these guys. And here it was him and like 3 other people like forged all of them. And the Metropolitan Museum of Art paid so much money for it.
Oh man, good for those guys.
But yeah. Now on February 15th, we have President Kennedy warns the Soviet Union to avoid interfering with the United Nations pacification of the Congo. Yeah. You want to read the next?
Sure. What is that?
Oh, let me. I forgot you. You're pretty blind. There we go. That better?
Sabina Boeing 707 crashes near Brussels, Belgium, killing 73, including the United States figure skating team, the entire United States figure skating team, and several coaches.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty decimating to the United States' figure skating community at the time. On April 17th, we have the start of the Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba. It ends up failing a couple days later on April 19th.
And to anyone who doesn't know what the Bay of Pigs invasion was, that was our attempt to kill Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
And we did it very, very poorly.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave Fidel Castro a lot of gave him even more political power, because he was like, look at these people trying to invade us.
Yeah. And then shortly after that, he just takes control of everything in the country that was owned by the United States, or like entities of the United States. So like U.S. citizens, like anything that they owned was confiscated, like businesses, cars, everything. Shortly following that.
December 11th, the Vietnam War officially begins as the first American helicopters arrive in Saigon, along with 400 U.S. personnel.
Yep.
Man, Kennedy really messed up a lot of things. He's beloved, but he messed up a lot.
Oh, yeah. Now, on July 2nd, a pretty sad thing happens. Ernest Hemingway, fiction writer, journalist, and winner of the Pulitzer Prize for The Old Man and the Sea, passes away. Which I'm sure that was big news.
Yeah, I imagine so. Writer. I mean, Hemingway was
pretty popular writer at the time.
Yeah. He wasn't. What was it? He wasn't a beatnik.
He was part of the. He was not a beatnik. Beatnik was.
But he was part of the same generation.
Yeah. He came out of the. Oh my gosh.
He may have been even a little bit older, because he would have been.
He.
Because he was in World War I.
He was a young man in 1920s, like, because he did a lot of writing in Paris, post-war.
Yeah, I just remember he was an ambulance driver in World War I.
Yeah. So yeah, he was a little older than that. Like the beatniks would have been like 20 in the 60s, 20 and early 30s in the 60s.
No, they were a little older, like Kerouac and stuff. They were in the 40s and 50s. Not even really, a little bit into the 50s, but I mean, by then Kerouac was just a raging alcoholic who didn't know what he was doing with his life.
Oh well, that's something him and Ernest Hemingway had in common.
I think that's why I associate him with the Beatniks. But
yeah,
I think he predates them a little bit.
He does. Couple of big things that are happening at this time. So you have the space race, the Cold War, and the Vietnam War, all happening around this time period. And for our CD side, it's pretty small. So we only have one, which was on September 25th. Black voting rights activist Herbert Lee is murdered in by Mississippi State Representative E.H. Hurst.
How are we not doing an episode on this?
You know what? I think we will.
This seems like it's we're gonna have a hard time finding news stories that we haven't already talked about. But this seems to be right up our alley. Well, my alley. I like that kind of stuff.
I know
a state representative.
Yeah, I know that we're planning on doing one. Because this isn't the first instance of a state representative murdering somebody. One of them happened like right on the floor of was it Congress or the Senate?
No, you're thinking about the beating.
Oh yeah, that was the beating.
Guy didn't
and then
die.
The other guy, there was the other one that actually murdered.
The pistol duel. I believe it was a state senator or a state congressperson, and then like a congressperson. I can never remember the name of the guy who got beat, but it was the caning of someone.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do that episode on your birthday coming up in July.
We didn't already do that? I thought we already did that.
Nope.
Oh, okay. I know we've talked about probably about half a dozen times.
So we did talk about the one where the guy beat up the one guy. A senator beat up another senator for bad mouthing him.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
We talked about that. The one, it was like a news story though. So
yeah.
All right. So now we're
It
gonna.
happened right around the Civil War, so whatever.
Yeah.
1860s, early 1860s.
Yeah, it was when they were. Oh my gosh, what state was it that they were trying to get to join the South? And
I believe it was Kansas.
yeah, Candace.
Say it again. The number of times you mispronounce Kansas.
Candace?
There's no D in Kansas.
Okay, Kansas. Is that better?
Yes.
Kansas. I'm not pronouncing the T, I swear.
You're just like Candace. Like the name Candace. And I'm like that.
Candy.
I let you go. I let you go the whole episode. I'll let you go and talk about it. But I'm buck stops here, babe.
I don't think we've done anything out of Candace.
I can't believe you can't pronounce Kansas.
Whatever.
Anyway, moving on.
All right. So just a little bit of a background. Our two players in this would be Betty Williams and John Mack Herring. They are both students at Odessa High School. Now, Betty Williams was a good student who had a counterculture type of view. She was into theater, and she was not very popular.
She was gonna be a hippie.
Yeah. So she would have definitely been like the feminist hippie.
Like proto hippie.
Yeah. So she had a lot of these like anti-establishment, anti-war, views. And she lives in a small town in southern Texas. So she was not a very popular person at her school. Now, John Mack Herring, on the other hand, was considered to be very popular. He was a football player. So that scored him
foosball players down in Texas.
Yeah.
They are.
Now, Betty, she had a little bit of an image issue because she loved attention. So she engaged in sensual activities with boys that she was not in a relationship with, which was very taboo at their school. And I mean pretty much anywhere in the South. Now, John and Betty, they were kind of like hooking up, boyfriend, girlfriend, but not in public. Okay, so she was like he treated her like a side piece. So she was fun to hang out with, but he wouldn't take her to meet friends and family kind of thing. Now, John eventually did break up with her. All right. Now, Betty was a prolific writer. She wrote a lot of letters to people, a lot of stuff in her diary. So there is a bunch of her writing that they have. So I did have a couple of things later on that I'm gonna read, okay? That she wrote. Now, Betty lived in a small farmhouse on an unpaved street on the west side of town with her family. Now, this is the pretty poor side of town, okay? So she did not come from a wealthy family or...
Was there an ugly poor side of town?
Hmm?
You said it was the pretty poor side of town. What about the ugly poor side of town?
I mean... yeah. I meant pretty poor as in, it's...
I'll take that as you don't know if
like
there was
the
an
level of poorness.
ugly poor side of town.
No.
It's like these people are poor, but they still maintain their houses. And the other side of town is like, the trailer park.
I read about this area of the town, and it was it's near the oil fields. So I'm guessing it would not have been a very nice looking part of town, but you know. Now, her father, John Williams, was a carpenter, and he had difficulty finding steady work as a carpenter. Now, Mary, her mother, worked at J.C. Penney's to make ends meet. Now, her family were strict Baptists. Her father, John, often preached to Betty about sin and eternal damnation.
Oh my god, I had no idea we were going to talk about Jack Kerouac and Lenny Bruce.
Yeah.
The beatniks that I had mentioned.
Stop reading ahead. Now, at 17, Betty was, as they described, the girl next door, kind of pretty. Now, she had sandy blonde hair, and that was like shoulder length, and she had big blue eyes. Now, Betty despised conformity and reserved contempt for the girls that wore like matching sweater sets and saddle shoes. She wasn't into that kind of fashion.
She was just jelly. She couldn't afford it.
Yeah, probably. And to make herself not seem like she cared, she probably put it down a lot. Now, she considered herself to be an intellectual. And she put down her opinions on everything from boys to religion in dozens of letters and notes that she passed in study hall. Now, she enjoyed reading and her favorites were Jack Kerouac, On the Road, and the poetry of Allen Ginsberg. And she liked to listen to recordings that she had of Lenny Bruce's stand-up routines.
Lenny Bruce, the original,
Yeah.
the OG stand-up.
Mm-hmm. Now, she thrived on attention, and even going so far as to dress in a manner that many in their town would not deem appropriate for a young lady. So somebody gave an instance of some things that she would wear and do. So she one time wore all black and wore white lipstick.
Didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. And then this was a huge no-no, was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. For girls, wearing a jeans and a t-shirt with no bra.
Strangely enough, the jeans and t-shirt were probably just as bad as the no bra.
Yeah, exactly. Now, she freely expressed her opinions and went against the grain, as, you know, all of her friends did say. Now, like her belief in... so she also voiced her opinion that segregation was unjust. So she was anti-segregation and all that. And, you know, it's in the South. So definitely not the political views of the typical Southern teen. Now, most people... now, this is something that she wrote to a friend in her senior year. She said, "Most people do not understand me. There are people willing to be my friends, but mostly they are either too ignorant to understand why I am like I am and constantly offer my mind no challenge, or they haven't the wits to match mine."
I feel like she's just a little arrogant, as most 17-year-olds are.
Yeah, and I mean, well, she's very dramatic. With everything. So people said that she was over the top with everything she did. Now, a little bit about the school hierarchy here. Okay, so the top of the Odessa High School's rigid social hierarchy was these girls that they dubbed the Cashmere Girls. So these were basically the girls who were voted most popular, best personality, class favorite in the yearbook every year. They also came from the families that had more money. And they were often on the cheerleading squad. And, they dated all the football players. So they had this thing where they would go to the football games and they would sit in the stands and wear their boyfriend's leather jackets. So this is like the
height of the leather jacket era.
Yeah. Now, they also belonged to an informal sorority, which picked only the most popular high school girls to be in it. And they were called the Tri-High Ys, or I have no idea what the Y stands for. The THY. Now, Betty was hardly sorority material, but she did voice that the rejection that she felt stung a little bit.
Oh, she wants to be a little conformist.
Yeah.
How contradictory.
I think she wanted to be popular, but yeah. Now, she had hopes of one day becoming an actress and escaping this small town life. Now, her bedroom was covered, like all the walls were covered with posters, playbills, and she devoured magazines like the Hollywood Scandal Sheet, Confidential. So that was like her favorite. Now, she loved the excitement of the spotlight and was gifted enough that she landed parts in 3 school plays in her sophomore year. Now, during her junior year, Betty played Juliet in the speech team's performance of Romeo and Juliet at the University Interscholastic League's competition. Now, she was a defeatist about the future, though, and she knew that her parents could not afford to send her away to college, so her long-term goal was to one day appear on the Broadway stage. But in the meantime, she was just going to live at home after graduation and attend the local Odessa college until she could save up enough money to eventually leave. Now, some nights, Betty would slip out the back door of her parents' home after her parents had gone to sleep, and she would walk the 4 blocks to Tommy's Drive-In, which was open late, and that's where all the kids gathered and congregated. It was at the drive-in, and that's where all the boys went. So, yeah. Now, Betty was known to be quite assertive with boys, and she made no secret of the fact that she was not a prude like many of the popular girls.
She was a hoe.
She was a bit promiscuous, yes. Now, at the end,
she was a thought, as the youngsters say.
Yeah. Oh, I have no idea what that means.
That hoe over there.
Oh, okay. I'm so out of touch with the lingo now. That's mainly because my godchildren don't use it, so.
Well, in front of you, they don't.
Lost. Yeah. No, we just have little girls calling other little girls bitches, like, and they don't even understand.
I'ma beat your ass. Inside joke.
Yeah. Now, at the end of the evening, at Tommy's, it was not unusual for her to end up parking in a secluded spot with one of the football players on the team. And this behavior got her a bit of a bad rap with the...
I feel like she was like the one chick from what's it called? The movie. John Travolta. Grease.
Rizzo?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like, she's got the attitude and the... Yeah.
Yeah, and she's always compensating for something.
Yeah. But she's got Sandy's looks, apparently. So, you know.
I guess.
Yeah. Now, Mac Herring was an average football player. So they did say that, you know, if it ever came down to him and the game and winning the game, you know, he was an okay player, but he wasn't the best player on the team.
So I was thinking about it. Like, so if he went by Jack as his first name, his name would be Jack Mac. If I was one of his friends, that's what I would be calling him. What's up, Jack Mac?
Now, in 1960, he was tall, considered good-looking, and he had jet black hair. And a lot of his friends referred to him as a guy's guy. I have no idea what that means. What's a guy's guy, babe?
As opposed to a sissy boy, a feminized. He was in it for the boys.
Oh, okay. So he was like just macho, like, or just like a cool cat, like a guy, just chill.
Yeah.
Like he didn't, you know. Okay, I can get
Probably
that.
wasn't flamboyant. Probably,
Yeah.
you know, you could hang out with him.
Yeah. They said that he was quiet and self-contained. So yeah, probably. Now, he was the oldest son of a housewife and a World War II veteran. His dad owned an electrical contracting business. Now, Mac grew up in the middle-class neighborhood, which is where a lot of the other popular kids lived. So they all kind of lived near each other. Now,
But was it the pretty or the ugly middle class?
It was the pretty side of town.
So it was a pretty middle class neighborhood.
Yeah, the one where the side of town where everybody takes care of their house and all that jazz. Lawn's always mowed. Flowers always pretty. Got fresh paint on your white picket fence. Yeah, you know.
You know what? Levittown doesn't have, I don't remember seeing very much picket fences in Levittown.
No, because Levitt's model of when he built Levittown was that there was supposed to be no fences.
Oh, that's right.
He
Yeah,
wanted
you weren't allowed
the community to feel like a family, and you don't put up fences between family.
Yeah, that went away.
Yeah, because
you see a lot of fences, just not picket ones.
Fences make good neighbors.
Well, you don't see a lot of front fences.
No, there's not a lot of front fences.
And it was actually growing up when
fences.
people had them, they were weirdos.
Well, we had a front fence.
Because there was one that lived next to my dad, and they were. I always thought it was weird that they had a front fence.
Like we had a front fence, and we had a front that would so the gate rolled across the entire front of the entire driveway. So we had a gate that would push all the way across, and that was used when we would be outside when we were
What
little.
happened to that fence?
It eventually got taken down. Yeah, it just didn't look nice anymore, and yeah. So
I don't know. I think people with front fences are weird.
Also, my mom got tired of people pushing the gate open and pushing their kids in like it was a freaking daycare. A couple times she came out and we're playing with these kids, and she's like, "Who the hell's kids are these?" She's like, "What the? Like what?" And we're like, "I don't know. They just showed up." Yeah. Now, he was an avid hunter. He was happiest when he was able to spend a few days on his father's hunting lease north of town. Now, Mac was near the top of the class in the hierarchy, so to speak, and Betty would have been near the bottom. Now, they did manage to strike up a friendship when she was a junior and he was a sophomore. Betty thought he was a kindred spirit to hers. Now, he seemed more sensitive than the other boys, and she thought that there was something lonely and romantic about him. Now, in the summer of
It's called
1960...
projection.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the summer of 1960, they started dating, and Betty wondered if she might be falling in love, you know? Now, Mac was careful to be discreet with her, though. He never took Betty to his neighbor, Carol McCutcheon's house, where the in crowd typically gathered for dance parties and stuff like that.
Nothing says a good time like a 1961 dance party.
Yeah, yep. I don't know. Seems pretty tame. Now,
especially in Texas. Oh, they're gyrating their hips. No, watch out.
You had to leave room for the Holy Spirit in between you.
And you just
2 feet apart. You're like hands are on each other's shoulders, and you're just swaying a little bit.
See someone rolling up, just doing a crip walk.
Yeah.
La di da di da.
No, he never gave her his letter jacket or brought her home to meet his parents. So Betty was kind of upset by that. You know, she gave him a certain type of time. You know, he had a car, and they would go out to the secluded areas, from what I read, and you know, hang out. So there was definitely more of a connection on her end than his.
Well, you can't be bringing the thoughts back to the house.
Yeah. So to make him jealous, Betty decided she was gonna go out, and that's in parentheses, go out with one of his best friends, a popular football player who had been voted most handsome in class. And I guess they got caught doing something in a car, having sex inside the car, you know. Now, the stunt that she pulled soured Mac on their relationship, and by the fall, he had broken things off with her. Now, she writes him this letter, and yeah, so I'm gonna read you the letter she wrote him. So it says, Mac, well, I guess you accomplished what you set out to do. You hurt me more than you'll ever know. What you handed me, when you handed me that note this morning, you virtually changed the course of my life. I don't know what I expected the note to say, but not that. I'll not waste time saying that I didn't deserve it, because I guess I did. I've never been so hurt in my life, and I guess your note was the jolt I needed to get me back on the straight and narrow. I've done a lot of things, and I know that they were bad and cheap, but I swear before God that I didn't mean them to be like that. I was just showing off. I know it's much too late with you, Mac, but I swear the other boy won't get the chance to say what you said to me. You've made me realize that instead of being smart and sophisticated like I thought, I was only being cheap and ugly and whorish.
See, she admits it.
Forgive me for writing this last note, and thank you for reading it. I'll not trouble you again. And Mac, I haven't forgotten the good times we had. I really have enjoyed knowing you, and I'm awfully sorry that it had to end this way. Best of luck with your steady girlfriend. I hope she's the best. Betty. P.S. When you think of me, trying to think of the good times we had and not of this.
And this was all over... How long were they dating? A couple of months?
Couple of months, yeah.
Very well.
Now, in a note that she wrote to a friend of hers, she wrote, I've never been so humiliated and torn to pieces as I am now. I feel so lonely and deserted. I don't care what happens now or ever. This is pure hell. Now, to make things worse, that fall when she went back to school, they had a new drama teacher. And I guess that teacher didn't think very highly of her acting abilities, and he relegated her to the role of stage manager for the spring production of Maxwell Anderson's Winterset. Now, Winterset is a gloomy 1935 play based loosely on the oh my gosh.
I'm assuming that's Sacco Vanzetti.
Yeah, the Sacco Vanzetti case. Now, Mac was casted to play one of the Winterset's lead role, the remorseless killer named Torek Trock? Estella. Right? Estrella?
Estrella.
There we go. Yeah. So he's going to play a killer. Now, still reeling from their breakup and depressed at the prospect of not being cast in a single play her senior year, Betty began to feel hopeless. Now, to Betty, Mac was the one, like her one and only, and without him, a life was not worth living. So over the first part of the school year, her mood turned darker after her father found her diary while he was rummaging around in her dresser drawers, looking for evidence of her waywardness, as they put it. Now, she was quite upset, and she confided to a friend that he had found her diary, in which she had detailed her experiences with boys. Now, she had pled with her father to believe her when she swore to him that she had changed, and he was not convinced. He was like, nope. Now, by winter, Betty had started telling friends that she was better off dead. And she told Howard Sellers, a junior at Odessa High, heaven must be a nice place. End quote. Now, she claimed to be half-heartedly She claimed to have half-heartedly tried to kill herself by taking 4 aspirin.
It's not enough aspirin to kill you.
Yeah, that's not enough aspirin to kill you. I mean, your head's not gonna hurt, I guess. Now, she boasted of climbing up into the auditorium rafters, intending to throw herself onto the stage below, but she said she lacked the courage to follow through with that. Now, Betty, who had always enjoyed being outrageous, talked about wanting to die to whoever would listen. Now, she informed at least 5 students working on the play that she wanted to kill herself, but didn't have the nerve. So Betty asked them if they would be willing to do it for her. Now, Mike Ware said he passed it off as a joke and didn't believe her. Sophomore Jim Mercer, when she asked him, he said, "I charge for my services," and then quoted her an impossibly high price.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. So one night after rehearsals, Mac gives her and Howard a ride home. And she asks him if he would help her end her life. She said she would hold the gun to her head, and all he had to do was pull the trigger. Mac laughed the idea off and was like, it's a joke. Okay, yeah, whatever. which brings us up to March 22nd of 1961. So Mary Williams, Betty's mom, makes a frantic phone call to the Odessa Police Department and reports her daughter missing. Now, one by one, the cops talk to Betty's friends in the principal's office at the school, where they were asked to tell them what they knew about Betty. So Ike Nail, a popular junior who had taken Betty home from rehearsal the previous evening, said when he had dropped Betty off at 10 o'clock, he said that she suggested that he return in half an hour and meet her in the alley behind her parents' house. Now, as promised, at 10:30, Betty snuck out the door and slipped into his car. Now, the two teenagers had been parked in the alley for a while, but they had been startled to see headlights come up behind them. Now, Ike, recognized the car as Mac's car. And Betty exclaimed, "Oh my God, I didn't think he'd come." Now, as she got out of his car, Ike said that she turned back to him and she said, "I've got to call his bluff even if it kills me." She then walked up to Mac's Jeep and got inside.
He had like a real Jeep too, like a real Willie's Jeep apparently.
Yeah. So the Odessa police youth officer, Bobby McAlpine, who is investigating her disappearance, pulled Mac in, sat him down to ask him a few questions. Now, Mac told a believable story. He said he dropped Betty off outside her parents' house at midnight and had not seen her since. But there were a few inconsistencies in his account that Officer Alpine thought was suspicious. And he believed that the 17-year-old knew more than he was saying about the disappearance of Betty. Now, one of the inconsistencies was that Mac said that he had dropped Betty at the front door and that he hadn't waited for her to go inside, which he thought was kind of suspicious. Like, why wouldn't you wait for her to go inside? His answer also struck the officer as odd because Betty had been dressed for bed when she had slipped out of the house that night. So she was wearing only pale pink shorty pajamas and a blue and white striped duster. So she was not, and he was like, well, why would you drop a pretty girl like that and not make sure she got inside? Also suspicious was, why did he drop her off at the front of the house instead of the rear, where the door would have led right into her bedroom? Instead, you're going to drop her at the front of the house, where the chances of her father seeing her was much higher because her parents' room was closer to the front of the house. And she wouldn't want to be found out by her dad that she got caught sneaking out, right? So at that point, the officer decides he's going to take Mac down to the police station for further questioning. Now, within 45 minutes of being in the police station, he breaks down completely. Now, he told Officer Alpine that Betty had begged him to kill her, and all he had done was help her by carrying out her last wishes, and helping her with the 12 gauge shotgun. So he's like, okay, yeah. So he has Mac lead him and other officers to where Betty is. So Mac leads the officers to his father's hunting lease, which is 26 miles northwest of town. He showed them where his and Betty's footprints in the ground were, and those footprints led down a steep incline. And beside the water on the ground, they located blood splatter. But they didn't see any body yet. Now, Mac told investigators that he had shot Betty next to the stock tank and weighed her down and submerged her body. Now, since they were unsure of the exact location within the tank her body was, the officers asked Mac if he would go in and retrieve her. So he stripped off his red and white varsity jacket, his shoes, his shirt, his jeans, and socks, and he waded into the water until it was about chest high. When he reached the center of the pool, he oriented himself by looking at a set of mesquite trees on either side of this little reservoir area. He then dove under the water, and when he came back up, he turned back towards the edge of the water and started walking back to them. And the Odessa police detective, Fred Johnson, could see that he was holding a pair of human feet. Now, the detective Johnson advised him to leave the body there and exit the water. Now, on further inspection, she was still clad in her pink pajamas in the water. Now, around Betty's waist were tied 2 lead weights, and she had been partially decapitated by a single gunshot blast to the head. Now, Mac was taken to jail. Now, in an interview with the newspaper, he recounted the drive out to the hunting lease, saying that she was cheerful and chatted about how happy she was going to be when she was dead. Now, he recalled that she was happy. Then they walked down to the pond together. He said Betty was shivering a little and had hurried back to the Jeep to retrieve her duster, which is like her night, like a covering. Oh my gosh, what's it called?
A duster?
Yeah, well, we call it something else now.
A muumuu?
No. It like a
I don't know.
house coat. It's like a house coat. Now, when she returned to the spot where Mac was waiting for her by the water, she took off her shoes. And then he told reporters this. So this is a quote. I just stood there with the gun. I said, give me a kiss to remember you by. And she gave me a kiss and then said, thank you, Mac. I will always remember you for that. Then she said, now, I raised the gun up. I raised the gun barrel up, and she took hold of it with the back of her hand and held it up to her temple. And then I pulled the trigger, and she was dead like that. And at that point, they noted that he snapped his fingers to emphasize like that. Now, quickly, word spread around town that Mac had been arrested for Betty's murder, and it shocked everyone. Now, oddly enough, Mac was not ostracized by the townspeople or his peers, despite the gruesomeness of the crime and the first-degree murder charges that were brought against him. Now, while he was waiting for his trial, he attended several parties at Carol's house. Many girls still visited him at home and boasted around town of knowing him. Now, after the arrest, the gossip centered less on Mac and more on Betty. People said horrible things about her. Betty's classmates puzzled over her intentions. Now, Dixon Bowles believed that she had trapped herself in a real-life drama of her own making. He stated this, it was a game of chicken and she never backed out. So the trial. Now, Mac Herring was tried for murder and was acquitted. His lawyers argued that he was temporarily insane. So he ended up being tried, going through a second trial. Once in Kermit, Texas, in a hearing that was only meant to determine whether Mac was sane at the time that he killed Betty. Now, nobody was talking about how Mac could have said no to what Betty had asked him. So, like, somebody, like, mentioned, like, it was really weird how everybody could talk about her easily, but nobody talked about the fact that he did it even knowing that it was a crime. And that he could have just said no and walked away and not done it. Now, after a legal challenge, the Texas Supreme Court stated that the judge lacked the authority to dismiss the case. So a second trial was held in Beaumont, Texas, which resulted in the acquittal. Now, this was mainly due to a letter that surfaced that Betty wrote. Now, Betty went so far as to write out a dramatic note that cleared Mac of culpability were he to be apprehended for her murder. So it's dated March 20th, 1961. And it reads as follows. I want everyone to know that I am about to do it in no way, what I am about to do in no way implicates anyone else. I say this to make sure that no blame falls on anyone other than myself. I have depressing problems that concern for the most part myself. I'm waging a war within myself, a war to find the true me, and I fear that I am losing the battle. So rather than admit defeat, I'm going to beat a quick retreat into the no man's land of death. As I have only the will and not the fortitude necessary, a friend of mine, seeing how great is my torment, has graciously consented to look after the details. His name is Mac Herring, and I pray that he will not have to suffer for what he is doing for my sake. I take upon myself all blame, for there it lies on me alone. Betty Williams.
So hold on. I want you to try and pronounce that the name of that city in Texas.
Beaumont?
Hold on. A lot of dead time.
Very first page of Beaumont
Beaumont.
From 1969, and this is a text that is always.
You have Cleveland Heights High School versus Beaumont.
That is Beaumont. I thought there was some crazy pronunciation of that.
What? I was right.
I remember watching a YouTube video. Now I'm playing a bunch of videos. I remember seeing a bunch of videos about how like it was really hard to pronounce.
Yeah.
Beaumont.
Beaumont. Okay. Yeah. So there's this letter. You know, she always was a dramatic person. I mean, this letter just, it reads very dramatic for me. Like, I don't know. Like, sorry guys. I'm thirsty. My mouth is dry. So, what do you think about the letter?
I don't know. She just seems like she's a loony bin.
Yeah. All right. So he gets acquitted, you know. So the aftermath of all of this. Now, I think like his acquittal mainly happened because she had such a bad reputation. He was like he was the stereotypical football player. But I do think that there were he had some problems too. And his lawyers basically claimed that her badgering him over and over and over again about helping her end her life broke him down, and he was temporarily insane at the time that he did it, because she had asked him over and over and over and over again. Yeah.
I was just looking up pictures of him.
Yeah, she's pretty.
Yeah.
He's not my type. So.
He's very 1950s attractive. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. He's not you, though.
Well, no one's me.
I know. Now, the Odessa High School staff did not provide counseling after the homicide occurred. Now, Herring did not lose any social status due to the events. And instead, the town gossip criticized Betty Williams, accusing her of leading him astray. Now, Herring attended Texas Tech University and worked various blue-collar jobs. He married twice. Both marriages ended in divorce. Now, Pamela Coloff of Texas Monthly stated that he appeared utterly unremarkable, at odds with his appearance in his youth. Now, Herring died on Sunday, January 5th, 2019, at the age of 75. Now, Odessa High School reports ghost sightings and paranormal phenomenon at the school for decades, up to the year 2006. That's centered around Betty Williams.
Somehow 2006 they stopped.
Yeah. Now, Odessa High's administration applied paint to the school auditorium windows to counter some of the ghost story.
Oh, so people couldn't look in.
Yeah. The ghost story culture. Yeah, so a lot of like teachers said that like especially after her death, like in the few months or the first couple years after, every time something would happen, somebody would say, "Oh, looks like Betty's at it again," kind of thing. Yeah, so Shelton Williams, cousin of Betty, who attended, he was an alumnus of Permania High School, who played against Herring in American football games. noted that wrote a book. He wrote a book called Washed in Blood, which was published in 2006 about his cousin's death and her treatment by the people of the town and the trial and everything. So he wrote a book about the entire thing. And if you guys want to watch it, so the TV show that I saw, A Crime to Remember from ID Channel, that's what I watched when I thought, and I found this case, and I looked into it a little bit more. Super good episode. It's the final episode of the 3rd season. And Shelton Williams, her cousin, assisted in the making of that episode. So, yeah. And that is the Kiss and Kill murder. What do you think?
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. I did have one last letter one letter that she wrote here, and it was from September 23rd of 1960. And she wrote it in study hall, and it was to a friend, and it was just about, making it to senior year and being excited about the rest of their lives, kind of thing, which is kind of sad. And that letter read, well, I've finally made the rank of senior, and I can hardly believe it. I really don't feel much different. We get our senior rings Wednesday. I'll be glad. It sure does feel funny to be on the top of everything looking down. Seems strange to think that this is really all of high school. Next year, with question mark, we had our pictures made last week. If they turn out halfway decent, I'll send you one. Send me another picture if you have it. Well, the bell is about to ring, so I'll write more later. Love, Betty. Yeah.
Seems like a weirdo. I shouldn't say that.
No. I think that she was like the stereotypical kid just trying to fit in, but not really. There was no niche, nowhere where she belonged within, that type of school atmosphere. Like she's very much a modern girl in a sense.
She seems very much so like a millennial. She thinks way too highly of herself.
Yes. What's your excuse?
I'm just that good.
Or what is it that they say about millennials? We are the participation trophy. We're the participation trophy kids.
I hate participation trophies.
I do. There should be a winner and a loser. It's just how it is.
Unless that participation trophy comes with money, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Then I'll just take the money.
Yeah. So that is it for our episode this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll check back with us next week for another riveting episode of Page 3 Killers, Murders That Went Unnoticed.
Bye.
Bye, guys.